We are going to talk about culture today. We've done a little bit in class talking about values, so we've introduced the basic undercurrents of a culture, but now we're going to delve a little bit deeper into what actually constitutes culture. So culture is made up of languages, beliefs, values, norms, behaviors, and material objects that are important enough to pass on to future generations of a society. They can be both tangible and intangible, so those you can touch, taste, see, etc. Or they can be intangible, which is those that you cannot touch, taste, see, sense in any way. Beliefs, values, ideals, etc. We take our culture from those who come before us. So I've put on your screen a couple pictures of American cultural icons. We have the Statue of Liberty, Nike, of course, Coca-Cola, the eagle and the American flag, and I put Starbucks because I think that Starbucks is a major cultural icon. Plus it's delicious. And then McDonald's. And have you ever heard the phrase, as American as apple pie? I'm not quite sure where that comes from, but apple pie has kind of become an iconic symbol of United States culture, as well as baseball has too. So we have a picture of the two of those together. So material versus non-material culture basically just refers to things that, for material, it's things in a society that you can taste, touch, or feel, so the tangible things, things that you feel are worthwhile to pass on. And I've put a house, because our dwellings and our buildings and things that we build to be permanent are usually those that we're able to pass down, and they exist for many generations. Of course, technology. We have the iPhone 6. I'm excited about that, can you tell? Then we have a laptop that's started to become an item that's replaced desktop computers, and even more so, laptops are being replaced by tablets. So I could have even put a tablet. I have Jordans. I'll admit, I've not kept up with Jordans, like, I don't know, probably since I was in high school, but I hear they're still popular, so here are some Jordans. And then I put a couple symbols of Texas culture. So I've put Jerry World, aka Cowboy Stadium, and I put Big Tex, as he is the iconic symbol of the Texas State Fair. And then if we look at the non-material culture, that just refers to the non-physical products of society. So things you cannot touch, but things that are still important to our society nonetheless. So values, beliefs, ideals, gestures, symbols. And I've put a couple examples here for you. So to talk about the intangible things, the main three are symbols, languages, and gestures. Symbols can represent, suggest, or stand for something else. They can be words, gestures, or even objects, and they often represent abstract or complex concepts. So for example, the flag pin candidates wore during the 2008 election represented patriotism, and President Obama chose not to wear the pin at all times, where other candidates did. So his choice not to do that made him stand out, and it eventually became a representation of his lack of patriotism. And so many Americans became so upset that he chose not to wear the flag pin that he had to eventually publicly address the issue. So here he is with his flag pin in tow. But that became a representation of patriotism, and that was something that was contested in that election, and that is something that Americans hold near and dear. So it became an issue where he had to actually address that. Language is a system of speech and or written symbols used to convey meaning and communicate. Language is just another part of the intangible part of culture that we're talking about. And of course we know languages vary across cultures. They can be similar, they might be very, very different, but we know that they've evolved from the common need to communicate and to share meaning. And a language is just another form of a cultural symbol. Gestures are symbols we make using our bodies, such as facial expression, hand movement, eye contact, and other types of body language. The meaning can vary widely across cultures. We talked briefly in class about the thumbs up, and how that is a commonly accepted symbol in American culture, but in other cultures it can be seen as quite offensive. And you might see the thumbs up sign now and know exactly what I'm referring to, whereas in other cultures you might be offended if you were to see that symbol. Values. Values are part of a society's non-material culture that help us determine what is good, bad, right, or wrong. Since cultures are capable of growth and change, it's possible for these values to change over time. Values also vary widely across different cultures. If you think about our activity about values today, everyone in class had a couple different values that they prioritized above others, and that was different even within our class. So I'm sure you can imagine the variety that can occur in a much larger society, such as the United States. And for example, for growth and change of values, if we look at this picture down here in the bottom left, these were bathing suits in 1913, very modest, only the forearm and the face is uncovered, so super, super modest. And then 100 years later, or I guess 101 if we're being specific, 101 years later, we see our culturally acceptable standard of swimsuit here. And we can tell that the value of modesty has changed quite a bit. We still have ideas about what is modest and what is appropriate, but it's changed from 101 years ago quite drastically. Norms and sanctions. This is a component of values. Our norms are rules that we develop for appropriate behavior based on the specific values that we accept as a part of our society, and those of course will vary from society to society. So norms are just basic rules or guidelines that guide your appropriate behavior. There are two types of norms we're going to talk about, and the first one is a folkway, which is an informal type of norm. They provide a framework for behavior and they're based on social expectations, but they're far less serious than mores or laws. So the example I have for you here is that these ladies have gone to the mall and they're wearing Snuggies and they're reading a book on a bench at the mall. And that is not something that you would decide is a good idea to do typically, and it's not something that we consider to be socially acceptable. So they're not bothering anybody and they're not breaking any laws or violating any serious cultural standards, other than, I guess, fashion laws, if you will. But they are doing something that is out of the norm, something that would make people turn and look at them. You can see the people in the background like, what? So that is a folkway. It's something that's just out of the norm, but it's informal, less serious if you break it. Look at People of Walmart. That's a wonderful website that will show you fabulous examples of people breaking folkways at Walmart. So what's not to love? And then mores are norms that represent a community's most important values and are more serious than folkways. These are based on the guidelines that we hold most dear, and breaking these are referred to as taboos. These are absolutely socially unacceptable. Some of the examples could be, which of course I did not want to picture, murdering or rape or taking drugs or underage drinking, things like that. But another that was appropriate to picture was shoplifting. And I just thought this picture was hilarious, even though the crime is not funny. But this lady just looks totally obvious. It's the weirdest picture I've ever seen, but that's what came up when I googled shoplifting, so there you go. And these breaking a more is something that could actually get you in serious trouble. You could be violating the law. And speaking of that, a sanction is a prize or punishment you receive when you either abide by a norm or violate it. If you do what you're supposed to do, you get a positive sanction. If you break the rules, you get a negative sanction. So here I posted handcuffs because if this lady got caught shoplifting, then she would most likely be arrested and go to jail, and that would be her negative sanction. A positive sanction would be perhaps you find someone's wallet and it has a lot of money in it and you return it to a police station and maybe there was some sort of reward for finding the wallet. So you receive some sort of compensation for your integrity and your sense of good. So those are norms and sanctions. And that is all I have for you. Super short one today. If you have questions, come and see me in tutorials or email me and we will do more about this in class when I see you.